Hi, my name is Hannah and I run Handmade.
How long have you been making your own jewelry?
It hasn't been that long, honestly. Back in the fall, I started this program with Urban Glass. It's called the Bead Project. It's basically a fully funded scholarship program. It's to get non-cis men into glass, because glass historically has been dominated by cisgendered men.
What is it like working with glass? Because all I know of it is that TV show Blown, I think it was called, the competition on Netflix. I'm not gonna lie, it looks terrifying. What is it actually like?
Okay, so Blown Away only represents one form of glass. It's hot shop work, which is basically making like very large objects. I do flame working, so I'm working on a torch. And instead of like starting with the glass as a liquid, you start with it as a solid and melt it down. It's less hot and intense and you have way more control. It's very mesmerizing and very satisfying. It's organic and you can see every step of your process within the glass. And it's just a very like whole body mind experience.
I was over here I was like, wow, you're like working with glass. Like, are you okay? Like, how often do you burn yourself?
My partner is a glass blower. Like, they are fully doing the hot shop work. It's like absolute physical labor. I'm just like, my body's not built for that.
You and your partner are both working in glass, which is a very cis male dominated world. What is that like? Do you kind of draw strength from each other?
Definitely. Well, I think the community that Urban Glass has built is incredible. I don't know if you've watched all of Blown Away, but the first season, Deborah is a queer woman who also works out of Urban Glass. So she is sort of an example of what Urban Glass is like trying to build, and it's a huge open access studio. We realize how privileged we are to be working in New York City, where some things just come naturally and easily. And I would say for my partner, it's a little bit more difficult because they are non-binary and trans. And like, you know, as a cis person, I have way more privilege and people don't look at me and like perceive me any sort of wrong way or in a way that I'm uncomfortable with. And so, yeah, I definitely think we rely on each other for that strength.
Living in New York City, it's easy to kind of forget that the rest of the world just doesn't operate the way we do.
Such a bubble. And I'm from the South. I've been in New York for about 2-ish years. I feel so safe in this bubble. So everything that's been happening recently, I'm like, wait, things aren't like New York everywhere. It's always jarring.
It is. What advice would you give to somebody maybe in a space that's not as warm and accepting as New York and as the studio that you work out of, if they want to enter a field like this?
I think it's really important to protect your peace and protect yourself and have an understanding of what that means. Every person can take different things at different levels. So having a really deep understanding of that. I think community is also really important, especially a community that represents you and reflects you in a way, but also is still diverse and comes with a bunch of different identities, because carrying a weight like that alone is really stressful and difficult and just bad on your mental health. Yeah, I would emphasize community and also emphasize protecting your peace.
That's good advice.
Thanks.
What's the biggest challenge that you've had in starting your own business?
Definitely myself. I've been trying to get used to the idea of calling myself an artist. I've been fighting the feeling of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and also comparison.
Honestly, like I've felt that too so many times in my life. Like,
yeah.
Every time I would hear somebody else talk about me and like the things I've done and accomplished, I always have this moment of like, who? Oh yeah.
Right. And learning to accept compliments. You surround yourself with people you trust. Like if they tell you they're proud or they love your work, like believe them.
Yeah. What's the coolest custom piece that you have been commissioned to do?
Things outside of my own product line for gifts has been the most like fulfilling. My partner and I will collab on like hanging pieces, like glass pieces that hang in your window. They'll make the top glass part and then I'll make the beads following, and those are always really special to make. Like a sun catcher, that's the word I'm looking for. Or even just like custom bags for people. And my sister, for example, loves like anything natural looking, like mushrooms or just fruit or whatever. So making her like a custom mushroom bag. Those things are always really fun because they're great gifts and you can personalize them.
As an artist and as somebody who's creatively inclined, what is it like dealing with the business side of things? Is that a struggle for you?
Definitely. I think getting comfortable in my artistry along with learning business and putting those two side by side is really difficult because I feel like my mindset is wired now to think about when I'm going into the studio, how can I make a product and how can I monetize my work? And I'm trying to unlearn that at the moment. I also want to make sure that the art that I'm making is reflective of myself always and is not something I'm making because I think people are going to like it or because I want to make a lot of sales or whatever. I want it to always tap into myself and come from my own art, my own mind, and also just understand myself as an artist. Also, like, I know that I'm gonna have to deal with taxes next year and having to keep up with finances and stuff. Like, I don't know any freelance artist that doesn't struggle with that.
I struggle with it. I've been incorporated as a model for 20 years, and I still
Oh
struggle.
my gosh.
20 years, and I still hate it. I file for an extension every year because I just can't handle it.
No, I don't want to hear that.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I think it's nice again to have community and have people that you can be like, oh, we're all going through this right now in tax season, like sick.
Yeah. Speaking of community, our community, the LGBTQIA plus community, is having a really tough time right now. And I know that all of us individually are feeling the effects of it, the anger, the grief, the sadness, all of those things. Would you say that your art is, in a way, healing?
I definitely think so. We live in a space that's so like comfortable in New York and isn't reflective of the whole world. And so to hear about these things, they almost feel just like so otherworldly. But again, coming from the South, it's like, no, like that shit happens. And it's just gotten to such an extreme. A lot of my work is about human connection and just creating joy and magic and all of these things I feel like pull from queerness. Like, I don't go into my work thinking like about my queerness intentionally, but when I see my final product, it's like, yes, this embodies so much of queer joy and like magic and all of the things that inspired me as like a little girl and I didn't recognize was the queer side of me, you know? I think getting into any sort of art in this time period is really important and just letting your mind kind of be present and be focused on this one thing and letting yourself be fully yourself in a moment through something that is tangible. It's really important.
When, in New York City, when the COVID lockdowns and everything were happening and it wasn't working, I just started sewing face masks as a way to like deal with it. And there's this moment when you're in the middle of creating something where you kind of can't think of anything except for what you're creating.
Yeah.
Nice to just have that break. Yeah.
It really is. And that's what I love about glass specifically is that you have to be using your mind the whole time to focus on this thing because if not, the glass is going to take control.
Do you have any pieces ready that you want to show me that you can show me?
Sure, yeah.
I love a show and tell.
Yes. Okay. So I've been working on these hats that are very like.
I love that so much. Wait, no, I'm a gamer. That looks like the stars that you get when you're playing Kirby.
Right? Oh my gosh. It reminds me of Adventure Time. I used to watch all of those like Cartoon Network shows growing up and it just like feels so much like that. It makes me really happy. So much of my work is about like combining materials and bringing out the softness in glass through like yarn. And so I've got this like cloud chain. This is borosilicate glass. It's like glass. Thank you. And it's just on this like crochet like neck piece, I guess. It's the necklace. This is one of my favorite things. I've been working on these little flowers too that are very like Dr. Seussy and fun and just
those are so cute.
They're very magical. It's so fun.
Before I stop recording, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh my gosh. Just, I don't know. Support queer artists. Happy Pride. Like, go donate to some trans funds. There's so many out there. And yeah, I don't know. Be your best self.